First of all, thanks for having me. This is a beautiful facility. This place is great. I think this is the nicest place I've presented in to date. I'm Wayne English. I run a small company called Web Content RX. I originally started out developing websites. I did the whole thing, coding, design, graphics. I've got a professional photographic background. I took all the pictures, did all the retouching, did everything. I kind of got sick of doing that. My computer and I, we broke up. We went in different directions. I love getting out and doing things like this. I love public speaking. I find it very relaxing and just a real good place to be. Better than sitting in front of my computer coding HTML and all that stuff. So I don't do too much of that anymore. In fact, I wasn't doing any until one of my clients, he had a small job and his webmaster wouldn't do it. It wasn't big enough. So I said, well, okay, I'll do it. It turned into a medium-sized job. And then another client who I developed a blog for, they needed a website put back together again. And okay, so I did that, and then that involved doing some other stuff. So I guess I'm starting, it's fading in. It looks like maybe doing small jobs that nobody else wants. So if you run across somebody who's got a job that's so small that nobody wants, you can have them call me. And if it's a couple hours, maybe I can help whoever out with it. If it's real big, I'll get them 3 estimates from 3 really good webmasters, and we'll go that way. But mainly I do a lot of writing. My first book is on how to write for the web content. It's a top 5 business title. It's a Washington Post and the leadership books, so it's pretty good stuff. It's on Amazon. It's all over the place. It's in Europe. I got 2, it's pretty funny, I got 2 reviews from 2 guys in Germany. Can't understand a word, but my book is on the counter, and they're talking about my book. Someday I got to find somebody who speaks German. So I've got it on my YouTube account, but I haven't got a clue what they're saying. I'm published locally, nationally, internationally, online, offline. I blog, try to blog every day. Lately I haven't made it. You might want to take a look at the blog. There's over 1,000 posts there. There's all sorts of stuff on there. There's a cartoon that I like. There's stuff on the technical end of doing websites, content, some stuff on content curation. If you like content curation, you probably won't like what I wrote about it. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. So tonight we're not going to talk about coding or design, really. This is literally making a website that has what's necessary to be good for the business that owns the website. So when someone comes there, they know who you are, where you are, what you can do for them. You can use it to include customers. You can use it to exclude customers. Now, you don't normally think of using the web to push business away, but that's a very valid use for a website. If you're a pizza shop in Hartford, you don't want to get calls from Hartford, Illinois. Somebody wants a large pizza. So you want to make sure that your website says Hartford, Connecticut. If you're a consultant, you probably don't need your street name because it doesn't matter, but you might want to have the town that you're located in, because very often people come to your website, they want to know, can I drop in and talk to you, or is this email and telephone? So you might want to have your name, your business name, of course, but your city and your state. On my website, it just says Coventry, Connecticut. I don't bother with the address. I have a home office, so it just doesn't matter. But a website can definitely have benefits to exclude clients that you can't serve or aren't a good fit. And you can do that for the financial end as well. So if you have people who are not necessarily in the financial realm that you're looking for, they can get to know that up front. Every major page of your site, and we're going to go through these in detail, there's more than just one slide. Company name, who, what, where, when, why. Anybody ever written a media release, press release? The first paragraph of a press release is who, what, when, where, why. No fooling around, no hi, how are you, no nice to see you, no I'm going to be there anyway, and I'll cover this for you. Forget all that. You just give them the facts. And then beyond the first paragraph, you can expound on other things. Navigation. Navigation's real important. It should be consistent on every page of your site. Certainly every major page. If you're going to go somewhere and open up a PDF, okay, there won't be navigation on there. But every page of your site that's either HTML or a PHP or any of the major sites, major pages, the navigation should be consistent everywhere. You go to some sites and the home page has got 5 or 6 links, and you go somewhere else and there's 3 links, none of which bring you back to the home page. So people get lost, and then they can't find their way back to the home page because the links aren't there. So what do? They close the browser and they go somewhere else. That's lost business. You've lost a potential client. What's a client worth? Anybody? What's a client worth? Come on. Come on. You can say it. What's okay, $1 million. Could be. It could be 100,000, could be 50 grand, 60 grand, 10,000, 8, 12. Suppose somebody wanted me to do a small web job. So it's 2 or 3 hours, so it's a few $100. You say, well, what's a few $100? But the point is, you don't want to lose that because they can't find a way to get back to your home page, or they can't find your Contact Us page. We're going to talk more about Contact Us pages. If Mr. Mouse works here. I'm sorry, this guy gets drifty. There we go. The company name. Ever heard of a company named 1200 Main Street? What do? Is it a restaurant? Are they financial? Are they consultants? Is it an engineering firm? Are they architects? You don't know. So if you're making a website or you're on the team, if you're in the room when this website's being designed, you've got to put words on every major page about what product do these people turn out. Otherwise, somebody comes there and they say 1200 Main Street. Yep, that's nice. The reader doesn't know. A company name can become very important because you've got to deal with the name. And if the name doesn't tell you what the business does, that has to be dealt with. Who are you? This gets back to what I was a little ahead of myself. This gets back to what I just talked about. Who is the company? If the name doesn't really tell you what they're doing, that needs to be filled in. You always tell people what you can do for them. You never tell them what you do. Now, the difference in the words is very subtle, but the difference in effect is dramatic. Imagine you're standing in line, you stop to pick up some milk and you're standing in line and it's like, hi, how are you? You're talking to the next person in line and, well, what do you do? And the person says, I'm a carpenter. And you say, oh, that's nice. I guess, gee, I need a garage built. Carpenters, I guess, I don't know, do they build garages? Maybe not. So that at the end of the day, a few minutes later, the carpenter goes one way and you go the other way. And you were standing right next to someone who could have built a garage for you. Nothing to it. But when the person said to you, I'm a carpenter, in his mind or her mind, knew what that meant. But in our mind, my mind, your mind, have no clue. What does that mean? What is it that you're a carpenter? And it's very important that when you put these websites together, when you put the text together, that you speak to the reader in terms that the reader understands. And that's, in a little bit, I'm going to talk about a book, Made to Stick. In there they talk about the curse of knowledge. You get, not you, all of us, myself very much included, you have a certain group of people that you deal with all the time. You have a vocabulary that you use, and everybody knows the vocabulary. So you speak in that vocabulary. And if you should step outside to someone who's not in your particular group, they don't know the vocabulary. Do you ever have someone, you're talking to someone and they say, oh, George was telling me, and you're wondering, who's George? George? What's that? Ever read a book? Joe and Fred were standing on the corner. He said, let's go get a pizza. Now, the writer knows who said that, but you don't. 2 or 3 mistakes like that, you know where the book goes? Goodbye. Goes in the corner. See you later. Back to the library, or goes in the bin to be recycled. So writing for the reader means everything. Telling people what you can do for them is important. because they don't know. When? You want people to call you now. So when you write your website, you can say something like, call us today. This is what's called an embedded command. Can you imagine if I stood up in front of this room and said, and I'm not going to point at anybody here, but if I said, call me today, you would think, whoa, where'd this guy come from? But if you write it, call us today, it's not perceived as being given a command. But it is. It does. You want to, this is a subtle cue. Now when you say call us today, guess what? You better have the phone number there. I don't care if you have to put the phone number every page where that exists. You put it on every page. Don't make people go looking for things. They won't. What they'll do is go looking for another website. That's not what you want them looking for. Obviously, if you're doing a meeting or a gathering or something like what we're doing tonight, you're going to give full information. The day of the week, the day of the month, the time of day, AM or PM. If you're doing 24-hour time, what people call military time, you can put in the military time, and then in parens you can put whatever AM or PM. If you're going to do 12, if it's 12 o'clock lunchtime, I like to put in noon, because you don't want to confuse people between 12 noon and 12 midnight. Or if you're going to put in 2400 hours, people know that's midnight. But be very careful when you use 12 o'clock, 12 a.m., 12 p.m. That can be confused. So you might want to say noon, 1200 hours or something like that. But when something happens at noon, you have to be careful that people don't get confused so they don't show up at midnight. Obviously, I mean, the venue would have to be appropriate for midnight. You know, if it's a restaurant, people would think, what are they getting together so late for? But there are other venues that things do happen late in the day. Where? If you're a pizza shop, I mentioned this earlier, you want your street address, you want your town, your state, because people have to find you. If you're a consultant, you don't need to do that, not as important. In a little bit, I'm going to mention something. If you're giving directions, excuse me for getting ahead of myself. If you're in a new building on a new street that doesn't yet exist on town prints and Google Maps and all that sort of stuff, give people an existing GPS address. So if someone flies into Bradley and they put in the 340, I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank on this street. Suppose the street doesn't exist. They put it into their GPS and it's not there. Well, how are they going to find you? They got to get on the phone and call you and try to get directions. So give them a GPS address if the address to your particular building doesn't exist. They will like that a lot.